Thursday, October 31st. Happy Halloween 2024. We're coming to you from the Nation Network studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the iconic historic Wall Center downtown Vancouver. Extend your game night with a staycation in downtown Vancouver. You can book a Securison price rate, exclusive rate. Call the Wall, 604-331-1000. Tell them we sent you based on availability. Some blackout date supply. Man, Securison alongside Blake Price. Four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson hitting switches, conducting things. Big show coming up after a big blowout at the arena last night.
There was one.
From the New Jersey Devils, who obliterate the Vancouver Canucks, take an early 1-0 lead, and then just turn it into a blowout in the second period. We'll get to that here in a moment. First, our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question. Which Canucks problem needs the quicker fix? Elias Pettersson, team defense, other. If you are voting other, we ask you to specify in reply on X where you can vote, voting on YouTube as well. Blake Price, what says you?
The louder, sexier pick is obviously Elias Pettersson. But if we're going to go factually, I think if you were playing staunch team defense, you'd be asking Elias Pettersson to turn it around just as the cherry on top, just to really put you over the top and to be a true cup contender. You get back to solid winning with good team defense, so I'll go there.
I went there as well. You'd have a few more points in the standings column, I think, if you have played, had you played good team defense from the jump over these 9 games. It's still not there. I mean, he's still talking about you've yet to see a 60-minute game from these Vancouver Canucks. I think team defense is the tourniquet. It stops the bleeding here. That said, you are not what you hope to be, and that's a Stanley Cup contender unless Elias Pettersson turns it around. And it's funny, I'm just out getting some lunch here on Hornby Street, and shout out to lawyer David across the way who stopped me and said, hey, love the show, blah, blah, blah. What's going on with Pettersson? Are Pettersson and Tocchet going to get along? Is Pettersson really going to... It's out there, across British Columbia right now. The fretting about Elias Pettersson, how he's going to get right, why it's going poorly. Is it solely a lingering knee tendonitis? Is he pissed off with them, proving a point because of the way they dismissed his knee injury after he detailed it on his way out the door last year? Is he just not tough enough to play for Tocchet in this management group? Is he not a cultural fit? All of those questions are forefront in the minds of Canucks fans and many, many more. In fact, we'd love to hear what your questions are on this file. On the YouTube stream, we're going to get into a super chat here today, so by all means, hit that super chat button and get your question to the fore. But yeah, team defense. If you're playing better team defense, I think you would have a little bit more time available.
Now, if I'm going to be devil's advocate, I'll say an elitely playing Elias Pettersson does a lot defensively for you, and he helps you outscore your problems. So that's why I would be tempted. I'm
still not sure that's the process they want.
No, it's not. But, that would be the argument for it, is that he would do so much of that heavy lifting in both directions that you'd be able to rise above the fray and then continue to work on your team defense accordingly. But I think, I don't think it's a likely thing to be able to just snap your fingers and turn around. You've got some more. I think you've got more agency asking the team to play team defense than you do in trying to get Elias Pettersson's game on track.
Yep, I think that's probably right. Daily poll question brought to you by Surrey Mitsubishi, where it's your final chance to take advantage of these 2024 models. I'm driving the 2024 Outlander Hybrid PHEV. Absolutely adore it. If you want to join me, drive one of these beautiful vehicles. You get a $1,000 credit towards winter tires. In fact, you're going to be out at Surrey Mitsubishi today.
Maybe. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Interest rates as low as 1.99%. No charge extended warranty valued at $3,750. EV rebates of up to $7,500. And at Surrey Mitsubishi, the first 6 months of insurance is on them. See dealer for details. And while supplies last, and by that we mean we are almost sold out here. 13820 104th Avenue in Surrey, or online at surreymitsubishi.ca. Please say hi to Daniel and everyone if you're going to be out there today. Okay, top story. Presentation of Yellow Dog Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Blowout loss, a 6-0 ass-kicking at the hands of the New Jersey Devils and the two younger Hughes brothers. Booed off the ice from those who remained. Bronx cheer for Artur's Silovs, smattering of boos for Elias Pettersson in the first period when he mishandles a pass. The worst shutout loss at home since 2006, and just the 7th time in the history of the club that they've had a shutout loss of 6-0 or worse at home. Tocchet, as mentioned, no 60-minute game yet. Said he wants to see, needs leadership. Interesting. And he even called himself out, saying, I got to get them ready to play. Your thoughts on what you saw last night?
I saw a team that I think thought it would come easier. I think it's a team that thinks that, it'll just happen and that you don't have to work for it and you don't have to focus and think about things a little bit more.
Like they did their working last year, man.
Yeah.
They put in their work last year. They don't need to work this year. They're just guaranteed a playoff spot,
and it's not a conscious thing. Like I don't think no one goes out on the ice there and says, I'm just going to go through the motions today and it'll be good enough. No, I don't think they think that. But you forget what digging deep is sometimes as a player. You forget what that extra 5% in the back pocket, you forget what you need to do to unlock that sometimes. And before you know it, you've been smacked in the face 6 times by an opposition team on your home ice. Now, they've done this before. The last time the Devils were here, they scored 6 goals. So they've got some good juju.
They don't seem to match up well against the Devils.
And it's like, it's like the good golf hole that you've always played well on. You generally will play well on it again because you've got good thoughts about it. So I think there's a little bit of that happening for the Devils right now. And they got a rusty goalie. I don't know that you hang all of it on Silovs last night, but there's a couple, I don't love the first goal.
No. No, there's a lot on Silovs. Well, let's not mince words.
I saw a lot of defensive Artur Silovs. I thought half the goals were pretty defendable.
Yeah.
Saves that are they easy saves? No, it's not like he was making gaffes, but you want your goalie to make saves sometimes.
Myers said we hung him out to dry. Well, maybe in terms of the odd man rush chances, but 22 shots.
Yeah.
And as you say, some of those goals that go in, you need to make a stop. Now, when your offense scores nothing, it's probably not going to matter in terms of winning and losing that game. But I'm not sure you can play Silovs until your next back-to-back. So
it was 1-0 for a long enough time, so I didn't love the first goal, and I was worried, oh, God, are they going to hang their head here and sag? And it was 1-0. There was some stability for long enough at 1-0 that I thought, okay, they've got a chance here now to erase that 1-goal deficit, forget it ever happened, and start this game over again. Couldn't do that.
There were some pretty strong comments in the post-game dressing room last night from the Vancouver Canucks, and perhaps somewhat surprisingly, not first and foremost from the head coach. He was reasonably gentle, given the material they provided to him for an absolute post-Thanksgiving carving. And yet,
I think he gave his bit privately, and probably
I have a feeling,
and probably after 2 periods. I bet you he might have peeled some pain after 40.
And also, the whole thing with coaches, keep them guessing, zig when they think you're going to zag.
And he's done a lot of that this year already.
Right. But a couple of his disciples, and we learned that Tyler Myers is a really good disciple for the head coach.
Yep.
He oftentimes translates Tocchetese to the rest of the group. But Tyler Myers called the game embarrassing and had a whole lot whole lot of other things to say about it. Here's the big defenseman.
Well, it was 4 rush goals. Obviously on the first one, would have liked to just pull out on that one. And then seemed like we had 2-on-1s and 3-on-2s against the whole night. Stuff we have to clean up. We're swinging. We're not going through people. Like I said, it's finding our identity, and right now we don't have it.
Not stopping on pucks. So when you don't do any of those little things, boy, teams can get behind you very quickly. So sometimes you get rambunctious and you think, I'm just going to try harder. I'm going to forecheck like crazy. But you can't just think that the game ends where you stand. There's a lot happening behind you theoretically. And if they get past you, and they often did, it was an odd man rush every time for the Devils.
We talked about it yesterday that this would be an awfully big test for the struggling Canucks defense corps because of the way that New Jersey plays, because of the waves of offense that they have, the skating factor, the ability to go cross ice with the passes and get the goaltender going both ways, and the fact that, coming off a Carolina game where they are going to flip the puck out and then shoot the puck from everywhere in the offensive zone, this is a Jersey team that was going to be a little bit more content to hang on to the puck, and a Jersey team that would be a little more likely to get you into an up and down sort of race course game. And boy, did the Canucks fail at this test writ large. So all of you who are clamoring for a top 4 defenseman and more mobility with that defense, even after Eric Brandstrom and how good he's looked in a Canucks jersey, I think just got more fuel to the fire. The other thing I want to bring up again, and I'm sorry to be a broken record on this, but I was poo-pooed by many when I was asking this on the eve of the season. We're 9 games in, and I think it has absolutely come to fruition, and that is you are caught between 2 identities. They talked about and implemented, and Tocchet even said, we spent a lot of time in training camp, in practice, on how to generate more rush chances. Would that come at the expense of your defensive play? The resounding answer after 9 games is yes. Yes, it has. You have gotten away from team identity, what you were absolutely best in class at last year in the NHL, and that is 5 skaters playing excellent team defense, being below the puck, understanding their assignments, not cheating for offense, and helping out your goaltenders. And we haven't seen that this year, Blake.
No, that's possible, but also possible.
It's not possible. It's happening.
Well, no, the other possibility here is the changes that they made on defense didn't work.
So it's just personnel?
Well,
but that leaves
not a very good-looking 6 defenseman.
Okay, but
you're missing a middle pair. You're missing a full-on middle pair.
I understand that.
That'll hurt a team.
But Blake, Cole and Zadorov make that much of a difference, and that lets your forwards off the hook as well.
It shouldn't. I think, as usual, there's a little bit of everything that's at work here. But I think you take away, and I think particularly late in the season and into the playoffs, I think the middle pair was even overachieving last year.
That's fair.
So,
but they were overachieving because they were letter perfect on let's keep the puck out of our net. They went out there understanding this is a new head coach, reasonably, half season previous, who is implementing a system, and we've got to play to this system.
But I feel like your theory, though, completely negates the pursuit of being a well-balanced team. Like, why can't a team pursue balance?
I said when he first started talking about this at the year-end press conference last season, I said it throughout training camp as well. This absolutely has to happen. It's the next step for the team. It's the evolution of Rick Tocchet hockey with these Vancouver Canucks, and that if you want to win a Stanley Cup, there are very few counter-attacking teams that don't generate their own offense and not have to rely on turnovers that win a cup. So you have to get to this, There are going to be some speed bumps. It is a difficult installation. And through 9 games, we have seen, again, no 60-minute efforts, no complete 60-minute games just yet, and a group of players who are very much struggling to adopt and employ the next phase of what they're trying to do while keeping their fundamentals, their bona fides defensively at the level.
So you're not against
I'm not against it in the least.
You're just saying that's what's happening.
I'm just saying this is the risk. This is what you're going to have to get over, and they haven't even come close to bridging.
Okay, so then let's just ask you the question flat out then. If that's the case, do you think they have the personnel that can make this happen?
I struggle a little bit with that because some of it requires defensemen to make really difficult passes through traffic. And outside of...
You got 3 guys that can make those passes.
3. Yep.
Currently
I
3.
think it also leaves you a little more susceptible to rush chances against. And you'll remember, Blake, one of the things they did pretty well last year was suppress the rush chances against, in part because they were hanging on to the puck in the offensive zone for so long, looking for those quality scoring opportunities as opposed to shoot from everywhere. So this is going to put a little more stress on your ability to defend the transition game. And yes, I've got my concerns there as well.
Now, here's the thing.
Particularly with Soucy.
Soucy and Myers, though, on their game, can be a part of this. But
I don't think it's unattainable, unachievable for them. I don't think it's necessarily their wheelhouse. But yes,
we've seen it.
Agree.
We have seen it. But they are not playing well, and I don't know if it's let me ask you this question. Is they're not playing well because they're just individually not playing well, or is it because they're playing together? Is that the problem? Like, is that just not a pairing that should be?
Well,
given their skill sets.
At this stage of the game, I would very much go Brandstrom-Myers and shelter Soucy a little bit more in terms of deployment. Both minutes played and matchups.
It's a worthwhile endeavor.
Because Carson Soucy has been god-awful this year. Mm-hmm. There's just no... was a fan of what he did last year. I can understand why they like him, but he's nothing close to a second-pair defenseman right now. And frankly, I do think you have to ask yourself, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, are you not just in the market for a second-pair right-side guy, because Myers would be much better as a third-pair guy, and Myers is getting to the age where you have to transition him out of being a top-four defenseman? But I also think you have to have a hard look and conversation with yourself if you're Alvin Tocchet, rather, for the front office, and say, are we kidding ourselves that our free agent signing from 2 years ago or last summer, Carson Soucy, is a legitimate second-pair left-side defenseman on a Stanley Cup contender? Because the answer for me right now is no, and I don't necessarily see so much improvement in him that the answer is yes, or at least not unequivocally.
The shot totals with Brandstrom playing with Myers, of which they played a handful of shifts together yesterday. Their shot totals were not great. Like their Corsi together wasn't great, but their shots, sorry, their Corsi was not great, but their shots for and against when they were together was actually in their favor, and their expected goals was quite much in their favor as well. So it was a mixed bag.
So what I'll say here is the shuffling of the pairs, which we're going to get into here, I think is something you got to take a deeper look at. But I always, in retrospect, I should have said this on yesterday's show, this was always going to be a very difficult matchup for the Vancouver Canucks, given what they're trying to adopt in terms of system changes and given the way this team plays. Like the game in Jersey months from now, you would like to think that the Canucks are further along with how they want to play, connectivity, chemistry, all those things. that a result like this is very unlikely. But a result like this, not 6-0 per se, but get into a skating chances, high octane, high offense type of game, or high at least chances type of game with New Jersey. That was always going to be a big ask for this team, given what they're trying to do right now early in the season. Bad matchup. Bad matchup for what you're trying to do.
And so now as we point forward, I am a little bit intrigued/concerned about what this schedule, not that they're guaranteed wins versus San Jose and Anaheim, and anything but you have to be a little bit careful by what happens over the course of the next 2 games and saying, okay, all is fixed.
Mm-hmm. Before we get there, let's hear from Talkett, because he drew comparisons to when he first got here, when he had to clean up the Bruce Boudreau mess of a team that would routinely blow the zone, a team that would routinely cheat on the offensive side of the puck, which didn't have good defensive habits. Here's Talkett.
Guys are just they're trying to go to A to Z without going through the procession. Your job first on the forecheck is, like I said, you don't have to kill it. Go through a guy. So then the other guy does this, that. What we're doing is I'm going to try my own thing, and then all of a sudden you're disconnected. They hit the weak side, and they get an odd man rush. Our odd man rush coverage was probably the worst I've ever seen since I've been here. It reminded me when I took over the team. That's how bad it was tonight. So we got to make sure we buckle, and the rush against was not good. We were really, we were just, I don't know, we were out of sorts tonight.
I like the way he frames it. There is a progression. And that when you don't go through your progression, there's a trickle-down effect. It affects your teammates because suddenly you're not in the place where they expect you.
Again, you're in automatic mode. You're just thinking that going out there, it's just going to happen.
Right.
Rather than actually focusing and doing the details consciously.
Now,
aren't many that can just step on the ice and have it happen automatically for them.
One more clip I want to play before we get to find out what's going on with our friends at Yellow Dog and Neighborhood, but JT Miller, where he talks about the lack of urgency, but I also think he brings up a good point with regards to the Connor Garland fight. Take a listen.
Or just urgency. Like, we make it way too easy on the other team, I think. Not enough FU in our game. Gorsh does an unbelievable job in that scrap. That was a hell of a fight. You'd think maybe we'd play a little better after that. So I think that sucks. I mean, the guy gets punched in the head for you, and you think maybe that would light the team. I mean, we did. I mean, it's just make it too easy on the other team.
Hear JT Miller, because Connor Garland has he been the best Canuck through 9 games? Close to it, right?
Very consistent anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's right there.
I thought
Heart and soul guy.
I thought there was 3 guys that get passes last night: Garland, Sherwood, and Hughes. I thought I saw enough out of those 3.
But you have Connor Garland on a reasonably good spell here of offensive hockey. Of course, his number one job is to create offense, right? Either be the goal scorer or be the guy who's winning those battles in the offensive zone and getting the puck to his line mates. This is not a big person, and I understand his opponent wasn't exactly a heavyweight either. But when he drops the gloves, the angry elf and wants to start punching someone and takes a few, and let's face it, he took a lot. He took a number of punches in that fight. I'm not sure he won the judges' scorecards. When you see the smallest guy on the team fighting like that, you would have to think that puts a charge in your bench and others, as Miller outlines. Wow. We got to redeem that. Like, look at how badly this guy wants it that he's willing to go to these lengths, which is completely out of character for him. I realize he's a pesty player, but he's not a fighter. And that doesn't get a rise out of the group. That's, well pointed out by JT.
It's going to take a Herculean effort to get to where they play good teams like that and look like that. Like, when's the next 6-0 win for the Canucks over a good team? They seem miles away from that. Miles. Wow. It's been a couple of years since this brew has graced the taps
You've got my attention.
at Yellow Dog. Everybody, welcome back. The Yellow Dog Shake a Paw Smoke Porter. Well balanced. Got some rich chocolate tones there, coffee flavor with an underlying subtle smokiness. Best enjoyed with friends and furry friends as well.
Yes. Noah Strang pointed out they had one 5-on-5 shot without Quinn Hughes on the ice through the first 30 minutes of that game.
Mm-hmm.
One. So the pairs were mixed up, as Blake outlined. The bottom four were their worst four players by the analytics last night. I have two questions for you. One is a here and now solution. One is a recrimination. Is it time for Filip Hronek to anchor his own pair? Would that give them more balance and depth if they took Hronek away from Hughes and at least had a competent defenseman, highly competent defenseman, on two of the three pairs?
Yeah, I think it's worth exploring.
Alvin had said, with what we're paying him, there's got to be a time where he has to anchor his own pair. Then Hughes came into training camp and said how much he liked playing with Hronek and had such great success, and why would you change it? And sure enough, the coaches have marched to the captain's beat on that. I completely understand it. I completely agree with Quinn Hughes. But that's in a scenario where you had Carson Soucy playing like he did last year, Tyler Myers playing like he did last year, Ian Cole, who had a very good first half of the season for them last year. They're not getting that from the rest of the defense corps. So I do wonder if that's something they're going to have to consider now. And you of course, you've got to go sell it to Hughes, and you go to him and say, hey, look, it's not a permanent thing, but right now we just need you to bring somebody along on your right side, much like we need Filip to bring somebody along on his left side. We think that's best for the team right now, just to stop the bleeding a little bit until we get back to the good team defensive detail that we proved last year.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen a ton of great teaser looks at those pairs, though. We've seen those pairs getting trotted out, and it's been mediocre at best for some reason. Quinn Hughes
so I know in the past Myers and Hughes haven't been a thing. Why not try it right now?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against it, but I just, we have seen looks, and it has not been good. So, you have to be ready to pivot again if that continues to be the case.
And folks, we know the big loss, angry loss. We know a lot of you were in the arena last night and spent a lot of money, as NHL games cost these days, to take that in. So we got a super chat going here on the YouTube stream. Looking for some of your comments, and partial proceeds of all our super chats this year will go to the BC Mental Health Foundation. So if you got something that you absolutely want read on the show, by all means, get in the super chat here, hit that button, and let us know. And of course, if you are on the YouTube stream, I sure hope you've subscribed and drop us a like. Okay, second question on the defense side of things. Did they screw up not meeting Zadorov's demands? Would you have been, and I know this is hindsight, but these are the sorts of decisions that front offices make where there are repercussions. And from time to time, you do want to look back and say, okay, what are the repercussions? It's very early, but they took the money that they were going to spend on Nikita Zadorov. They spent it on Vincent Desharnais and Derek Forbert.
And then some.
And a winger. Mm-hmm. And you do the math and pick which winger, fits most neatly. But they left themselves without a guy who was so important to their success last year, particularly in the playoffs, that they understood early in the season. In November, they made that trade, Blake. Mm-hmm. So they understood early, boy, this isn't getting it done. We're going to need something further. that 4 or 5 type defenseman. Maybe he's not a perfect second pair guy, but he can masquerade on the second pair, and he's going to be a hell of a third pair defenseman for you. Are they missing Zadorov or that profile of guy based on the way they went about divvying up limited cap dollars in their offseason?
Nikita Zadorov was an imperfect solution in the offseason because of his age and what he was asking for. In concept, love Nikita Zadorov on my team. But as you put together the salary cap puzzle, I was pretty wary about giving that player $5 million for a long, long time. He's an imperfect player. He makes a lot of mistakes when he makes them, and he gets into ruts where he makes them a lot. I think where they err
Although,
here.
to be fair, I don't remember like huge stretches of bad hockey from Nikita Zadorov last year.
No, but he can have a
Like
bad
I think
game.
he was a lot better than what I think a lot of people feared last year.
Well,
Anyways.
there was portions of January and February where people were wondering why they made the trade. It was not until late in the season where,
But I would argue November till that point in late January, people were really happy with the trade. And then after he got through whatever struggles he had, and he was awesome, and particularly in the playoffs.
Yeah, but a lot of people also think that was maybe the best he's ever played. So was that just a brief glimpse in time? Again, to recap, they get Darnay, they get forward, and let's say Sherwood. That's exactly $5 million. So if you look at that,
And, of course, with a lot less term than Zadorov,
Right.
who signed for 6 years.
Derek Forbort, we hardly know ye. I mean, so that's an incomplete grade here. Kiefer Sherwood has been an unabashed success. And Vincent Darnay, from the get-go, I criticized this signing. Did not like him as an Oiler, could not understand an extra year, and especially at $2 million. So if this is a bash the Darnay party, I'm in. But if you spend that $2 million on another $2 million defenseman, or Matt, if you spend $3.5 million on another defenseman and we never see Darnay and Forbort, you got my attention there. Because what would $3.5 million on one player have looked like for the Vancouver Canucks, either by trade or by signing?
You'd have one fewer. You'd have one less NHL defenseman. So your depth would have been hampered. Remember, Brandstrom wasn't here at the time. Brandstrom didn't figure in the plans at the time.
But we have to assume that all that rolls out the same way. Eric Brandstrom,
Okay.
that's out of their orbit, so you still end up with
But you'd
Brandstrom.
have more quality. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And you'd have more reliability and dependability.
Like, presumably the $3.5 million defenseman is going to vie for Soucy's spot.
Yeah, and I think you're also probably a little further along with what you're trying to achieve, adopt, and employ this year with the transition game, as well as having better team defense, being more attuned to what was your staple, your defining characteristic last year of overall team defense. All right, so Garland's hearing his name chanted by the fans. He mentioned how they've gotten away from hard defending, but as you've already said, Silovs, and I would like to hear what the audience has to say about this. When does he play again? Does he next play for the Abbotsford Canucks? And not necessarily because Thatcher Demko's healthy, but because you're willing to call up Yuri Patera and really ride Kevin Lankinen.
I think it's a possibility. I don't know that holding on to him and playing him versus one of the lesser lights of the NHL is that bad of an idea as well. I'll say the criticism there would be that I thought they should have done that this time around. Like, I would have played Lankinen last night. And I would have played Silovs versus the San Jose Sharks. I don't know why that wasn't
I agree.
the choice.
I agree. Well,
maybe he thought that he would, and we have seen this, that when you give the backup a start, often players say, okay, we got to be tight defensively here tonight. It's the rusty guy.
mm-hmm.
They didn't get that effect, though.
Yeah, his reasons for playing Silovs yesterday. Oh, we got to get him in. He hasn't played in a couple of weeks. I found them a little threadbare. I was like, it's It's a really good offensive team. Okay, yeah, maybe they have some similarities to the Edmonton Oilers in the way that they played last year and the way that, Artie was able to, for the most part, keep his team in games and be the goaltender he was in that series. That, yeah, you didn't want him against Carolina because they shoot from distance. And he's got a problem there. So, if this is more of a scrambly back and forth game where he has to defend both sides of the net, not just the one, that might be up his alley. But, Saturday's a sitter against San Jose, right?
You'd think.
Like, that's the place where you can get the player and his confidence back teaming. We know how you handled San Jose last year, early in the season. I mean, I read today Macklin Celebrini's getting closer, but so yeah, I do wonder, and
we'll ask Frank Corrado about this in a bit.
Yeah,
too.
and the other thing I wonder there is this the first time where the Ian Clark demotion has bit them? What would Clarkie have done with the goaltenders rotation?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I find it suspicious that he would have thrown a rusty Artur Silovs out against the high-flying Devils. I find that suspicious. I don't think he would have. But no one knows for sure.
Yeah. Dollywall has reported that he thinks Demko will be 2 to 3 weeks still.
Yeah. So
the timeline seems to have shifted back to December here. I'm sure they won't cop to a setback. But
I'll buy you lunch if he plays in the month of November. I'm quite confident that one.
Well, I bought lunch today, so
Yes.
you owe me a lunch.
Yeah. It'll happen when Demko plays in November.
All right. What are the people saying? People angry? They were angry last night, and I get it. I got a message from a friend of ours, season ticket holder, who said the worst home game in the last 2 years. And like the thing is it was around this time last year where Canucks tickets got really hot again. And there started to be demand again back to not quite the 2010 to 2012 levels because, back then it was just exceedingly difficult to get a Canucks ticket. They had the sellout streak going. They had, maxed out their season ticket subscriptions. So easier than that, but it was around this time last year where Canucks tickets got really desirable again. And we've noticed that, it's a little bit of a softer market.
The box office is selling tickets for every game this season.
Yeah, they got
every
availability
game.
for every game. Now, the one thing that we're wondering is, because this is happening now, is you have sports teams and musical acts that are really jerry-rigging the market in some ways, like buying up their own inventory and then putting them on the resale market. Boy, is there a need for some regulation on the ticket market with what we've seen here.
But they're being bitten by that.
And there are legal proceedings and people looking into just the way tickets are manipulated these days across sports and entertainment, and hopefully, because we've now become almost resigned to the fact that it's just an arm and a leg to go to a sporting event, to go to a concert. Hopefully there is a day where at least there's an equitable market.
But keep your eye on the secondary market, folks, because the fact that there's box office tickets means that the secondary market tickets should be low. I mean, you should be desperate to get rid of. If you can't go to a game and you're trying to sell your tickets, don't be expecting top dollar, because they can just go to the box office and pay face value. So if you wanted to go see a Canucks game, I would say go secondary market these days, and you should do pretty well, because everything's available. They're advertising right now for McDavid and the Oilers. Yes. Now, there is no McDavid this coming weekend. Weekend from now.
Yeah, a week from Saturday.
But you didn't know that until 2 days ago. Why isn't that game sold out?
Yeah.
This is the best player on the planet and a playoff rivalry from months ago coming back, and it's not sold out.
Dakota Joshua is going to speak tomorrow. We haven't heard from Dakota Joshua outside of the statement that he put out on the eve of training camp when he revealed the fact that he was diagnosed with and treated for testicular cancer. Now, it was a week ago tomorrow that Tocchet was saying, look, the skating is fine. Now he just needs to simply feel the game again, meaning, it's time to get some contact, get bumped around a little bit in practice, get closer to replicating what an NHL game will feel like for Dakota Joshua. I know you've talked about conditioning stint as well.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact that it's not really used as often in hockey as it is in baseball. Used pretty liberally in baseball. Like, if you miss 6 weeks or so, that's pretty much a guaranteed run of conditioning.
And what's the key thing for baseball? Timing, right? Particularly at bats. Getting timing, seeing pitches again, knowing, all that. And that can be a thing in hockey too. To me, it's what is the reticence of the player? Player saying he's not ready because of X. Well, what is X, and can X be remedied by a conditioning stint? If it's just cardio, now you could probably do that at home. But if there's a timing aspect for it, whether it's lining guys up for hits, whether it's getting shots off in traffic, of which both those things are Dakota Joshua traits, maybe a dry run on the farm is not a bad idea.
Well, looking forward to hearing from Dakota tomorrow. We have seen his.
I think it's going to be an unveiling tomorrow. I think it's. going to be,
I think
he's
so
playing
as well.
on. I think he's playing on Saturday, and that's why he's talking tomorrow.
Yeah, and the Canucks have put out some of these videos, particularly after wins, where Dakota Joshua is right there, big energy, big enthusiasm, congratulating his teammates. And you can tell, Talkett has said this, the way they respond to Dakota Joshua. It is clear he is good for vibes with that group. It's also clear that he and Connor Garland are quite a duo in that room. And so, look, I'm not sure you necessarily are going to need much to help you out. You should be pretty motivated coming off an embarrassing loss at home. And, of course, the quality of the opponent matters here, too. But if it were to be Dakota Joshua making his season debut on Saturday, I think you got a little extra something. And put it this way, I might be laying multiple goals with the Canucks on Bet365.
Baines and Brandstrom are doing the do-side-do again, probably for the cap reasons that they've done before. But if Joshua was playing on the weekend, maybe only one guy returns. Maybe it's only Brandstrom that comes back here, Matt. Has Baines done enough that he is given the benefit of the doubt and he's not the guy that goes down when Josh was activated?
Well, he was one of many who was a -2 or worse last night, if I'm not mistaken. Based on the fact that he doesn't require waivers. 11:39 last night, -2, 2 hits, 2 block shots. Doesn't play much special teams either, right? So, No, I would not be at all surprised if it's Baines who goes down.
Derek Forbert practices tomorrow again as well.
And I can see him too.
So if that's
a
the
good
case,
place to get his
do
feet
neither of the guys come back? I would be surprised at this point if Eric Brandstrom just come
play the Anaheim game.
He forces other guys to have healthy scratches and then just goes right down to the AHL. Like he's the top 6 defenseman.
But again, your 30 days or 10 games, you keep prolonging that if you leave them down there and say, come join us in Anaheim or against the Kings.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
or join us back at home if we think.
I don't think he should. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he is back tomorrow and in the lineup against the San Jose Sharks on Saturday. I think, frankly, it's cautious. It's cautionary in a way because you're so bad defensively, and he's been one of the bright spots that can't imagine playing without him. But yes, I do think Forbert's going to play on Saturday, and
I wonder if they feel like they've been hemmed into a cap corner here, and they just have to bite this bullet for the short time being.
Yeah, maybe that too. Again, it's San Jose. It's a team that was just horrific last year. As bad a team we've seen in many, many years, and they're off to another horrible start. Missing their first overall draft pick, Vancouver's Macklin Celebrini. Let's get to some of your comments, CB on YouTube. In general, there has to be some changes to the term or a clause when signing players. It's so lopsided to the player's advantage, like getting stuck with the contract with Petey. Fug me. Well, because
Most of the
standard
chat.
player contracts are standard player contracts. If the owners want out of standard player contracts, they can try to negotiate that in the next CBA. And I think the PA's response would be, it'll be a cold day in hell. That would be a gargantuan ask if we wanted to take hockey player contracts and make them non-guaranteed like football player contracts, or give owners outs if the player isn't performing. It's up to the owners' management groups to make the calculations and decisions on whether or not player X is going to be worth this amount of money over this amount of years in a competitive marketplace, and you have to live with those decisions.
Most of the chat is on Petey. Let's be honest. Most of it is
I
on
get it.
Petey. J-Lo, I would like to know if Petey's story is the most dramatic in Canucks history. How does this compare to the early struggles of the Sedins? Well, the Sedins is fairly linear, though. They, low level of production for a handful of years, and frustration was there for sure. But then once it took off, and it was rather linear from there on in. So there was a satisfaction to that. Here, you've seen the player launch. He's already past where the Sedins were at this age. But now it's coming down.
And Blake's absolutely right. But here's the other thing. Let's have a little perspective here. We're talking 40, 50 games going back to last year, right?
Yep. Out of several hundred. Yep.
The Sedins, over 400 plus he's played in his career. The Sedins, it was multiple years of not looking like they were going to be worthy of second and third overall picks.
Yep.
Before they got it together. So, look, if Pettersson hits the 400 game mark, and we talked about this last week, 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, if Pettersson hits the 400 game mark and then goes multiple years where he looks like just a pedestrian player, yes, that would be unprecedented. The Athletic looked at that. There are very few players in the history of the league who have produced at the level that Elias Pettersson has produced
and then disappear.
And then absolutely disappear. In fact, there's one, Alexander Semin. And a lot of that probably had to do with the fact that when he left Alex Ovechkin in Washington, it just, and Bruce Boudreau was the coach, of course, the game wasn't quite as easy for Alexander Semin.
There's also
I would like to think that Elias Pettersson is a much better player, and particularly two-way player, than Alexander Semin.
They also, there's been speculation about off-ice stuff there with Kuzi and Semin and the hijinks of the Capitals of the era. So, it's unlikely to happen, but I do have to ask, though, Matt, like, at what point? Because it's not just from the start of the season. I would honestly be throwing up yellow and red stop signs here if we were just talking about these 9 games.
Right.
But based on the fact that we know what happened at the end of last year and in the playoffs, like, when is a reasonable time to start this year and say, okay, what do you do? Like, when is that moment?
Yeah.
20 games? Is that the reasonable time?
Mid-season, I'll give you 3. Mid-season, trade deadline, by July 1st.
Whew, that's pretty late in the proceeding. Yep. You're gonna wait 40 games of absolute struggle.
Yep.
50 games.
Well, put it this way: if I'm still on a playoff spot or around a playoff spot, yes. If for some reason that is slipping away, then I'm going to have more urgency. But yes,
that's fair. If you're still second or third in the division while you're trying to figure out Petey, you have to have patience.
Steve Dockery on YouTube. They are caught in between a lot this season. On the forecheck, not close enough to pressure or far back enough to defend. Teams come out of their own zone too easily. Yep, here to that, Steve. They are not quite there. 9 games plus whatever they had in preseason. It's still early, right? It's probably going to take longer than that. It is taking longer than that. That's the evidence before our eyes. I still have belief in this club. I think Tocchet still has belief in the players. Yes, there are some deficiencies. Yes, the deficiencies are showing up. But I don't think we're at a baby bathwater situation here yet. I still think you have to stick with this because, again, long-term, big picture, you're going to have to be able to threaten on the rush if you're going to be a Stanley Cup team. Let's get to today's menu. It is brought to you by Greta. A fantastic spot to catch all the games, home and away. We'll be there for Canucks Army viewing parties throughout the season, pregame, postgame, your minutes from the arena or stadium. They have a fantastic arcade there, all your favorite games, and an awesome menu. Check out the Smash Burger, weekly drink specials, Greta, the place to be, 50 West Cordova, and a Greta bar. Let the games begin. Frank Corrado is coming up. Good conversation with Frank about last night's game and pointing forward to what needs to be done. Enjoyable chat with Rob Williams on a bunch of topics, including some really quite an oddity. It's Halloween. I sure hope this one is a trick, not a treat, with a Canuck ghost of years past. All that's coming up on the show. Let's get to our Bet365 Bets of the Day. This segment brought to you by Bet365, proud partner, Sekeres and Price. Blake, where are you going today?
I'm going to take a look at a prop from the Thursday nighter and looking at touchdown scorers. Going to go with Joe Mixon as an anytime touchdown at 172 for the Texans.
Yeah. You're big on the Texans here.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody is like, I can't believe the Texans are underdogs in this game against the Jets. That's really what is preventing me from going harder on the Texans.
What, it's too unanimous, you mean?
Yes. You know, they don't.
Except when it's likely.
They haven't built those palaces in Vegas because the public wins a lot, Blake.
I know, but a 6-2 team
against
like
a
2-6
I know.
team.
And yet somehow, some way, I look at it and I go, is this a sucker line? I like some NHL underdogs tonight. Not necessarily because I like them as teams, more so that I dislike their opponents. Pittsburgh, not a very good team right now. Take a look at who's playing for Pittsburgh right now. So why not Anaheim at plus 160? And then the Flyers. And Tort said it the other day. So much has to go right for the Flyers to win right now. Oh, they just had a 2-0 victory the other day. I'm going to guess they fall back to earth. I'm going to take St. Louis at plus 125 in Philly against Torts and the Flyers today. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION. New code here, NATION, when opening that account.
Last comment from Jack on YouTube. Worst part of the loss last night? It was so late, I couldn't even make a trip to the liquor store to forget the travesty.
Yes, it was late.
Down with 730 stars. No more, please.
Frank Corrado coming up next.
I'll be honest, I don't get to many games anymore, whether it be at the arena or the stadium. Ticket availability cost, it's a bit of an issue these days. So I prefer to go where there's atmosphere and I know I can get in. Greta Bar YVR. Soak up all the atmosphere with your fellow fans and enjoy a great night with a great street food menu. I prefer the poutine. Weekly drink specials as well at Greta Bar YVR at 50 West Cordova. And we'll be having our viewing parties there all season long as well. Your pregame, your postgame, it's at Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Wall Center.
It's the time of year where you tend to spend a little bit more time with friends and family. Everybody's going indoors now as the weather changes a little bit, and you want to have family-related dishes, I think, when you eat. That's why White Spot has come up with the comfort menu, and it just has you screaming, feeling homey. Chicken pot pie, pot roast, mini Yorkies, a braised beef burger. Is your mouth watering yet? Mine is. I even heard rumors of carrot cake. Go check it out. The culinary team at White Spot has nailed the comfort menu. Visit your local White Spot today.
Carrot cake in the fall. It's perfect.
Very
In
aesthetic.
fact, I would argue, at the risk of getting a significant portion of this province furious with me.
Better than the Nanaimo bar, yes.
Well,
Yes, it is.
And frankly, more autumn than pumpkin spice. I went there.
Carrot cake or butter tart, more quintessential Canadian dessert.
Yeah, good one.
They're very good. Both
I'm
of
going
them.
to stick with carrot cake.
It has to be a good carrot cake, though. Yeah.
Here's Frank Corrado, former Vancouver Canuck TSN hockey analyst, and he likes food too. How are you?
Let me chime in on this. First of all, carrot cake is elite. It is up near the top of my favorite desserts, cakes. Very underrated, underappreciated. I appreciate carrot cake. I am in agreement with you, Matthew. I will take a carrot cake over a Nanaimo bar. And
Any day.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. And it gets slept on. No one says I'm going to bring a carrot cake over.
It's an odd mix, right? Like, who would look at a carrot and go, that would make a good dessert?
Pineapple in there too, right? You put a little bit of pineapple in a carrot cake.
Is there pineapple?
You can, yeah.
Really?
It's nice.
Have you made carrot cake before?
No, but I watch a lot of people make carrot cake.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I was unfamiliar with the pineapple aspect of it.
Look it up. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, it stands to reason, the sweetness,
like canned
right?
pineapple, yeah.
You know, you got to find sweetness somewhere.
Yeah.
I had I had an incident yesterday. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I accidentally found myself in Shake Shack. It was an accident. It happened.
They put one around you. You were just walking down the street. They built one around you.
You're walking around, and next thing you know, you got a double stack with bacon, and you're like, oh man, how did that happen? Yeah.
Recently, Blake and I went through some of those U.S. burger chains and which ones we like, which ones we dislike or just find overrated, and we had agreement on Shake Shack, I believe.
Maybe. I think I've only been there once.
Yeah.
It's good. It's
Short
not
House
White
took
Spot,
us
but
there.
it's good. It's not as good as White
Very
Spot.
true. Very true. I know it was a very late start. Did they put you to sleep, like, say, early to mid-second period last night?
I may or may not have checked out of that game when the Canucks checked out of that game, which is sometime in the second period. Yes.
Right.
Not for Connor Garland, though. Like, he tried to get things going. Big
Kiefer
fight.
Sherwood, too.
Crowd is chanting his name. Tried to get some life into his group, into the building, but that was I don't regret staying up to watch it with a 10:30 start, but didn't need that extra 30 minutes of time to play with.
It's a scary flashback, I think, for a lot of Canucks fans to the couple of years before last year, basically, where they had nice elements on the team still, like JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Quinn. They were all there, but none of it came together on a nightly basis, and they ultimately just were not a good team in those previous couple of years. I think Canucks fans are a little bit worried about what they see right now. Again, it's not that the record is worrying. The record is not.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line is not worrying. They are still, I think, as we speak, and we shouldn't be talking about playoff spots after 9 games, but you know what I mean? Their place in the standings is not the concern. It is what we are seeing with our eyes that is the concern, isn't it?
Last night, I would describe it this way. It was a cute off. It was the Canucks were trying to be cute with the puck, and the Devils, under Sheldon Keefe, the way they play, they don't dump the puck in and go forecheck you. How many times did Jesper Bratt or Jack Hughes bring it back and regroup and try and attack off the rush? And so when a team is playing that kind of game, you can't get into that kind of game with them. And I thought Vancouver was trying to do too much, quite frankly, whether it was with the puck, full possession turnovers, turnovers in bad areas of the ice, not clean on breakouts. And then even without the puck, that first goal of the game, Tyler Myers, that's one where you just live to fight another day. Like, that's just pretty simple. You got to accept the 2-on-2. Instead, you dive in. Like, it's trying to do too much. I think there's an overly cute element to their game that they have to find a way to get rid of and get back to the more, and this sounds, super old school dinosaur like, but just get back to the simplicity, the meat and potatoes kind of, style of game that if you do that, then the skill will have more room afterwards. I think it's overly cute right off the bat right now.
Well, I want to bring everybody back then to the discussion we were having on the eve of the season and a couple of games in, and that is, in the aim to generate more rush chances, do you leave yourself exposed a little bit to getting away to what was your identity, and that was team defense? And it seems like everybody, Frank, is skewering, including Vancouver Canucks, the team defense and getting away from that quote-unquote Tocchet staple. Are they a little bit mixed up here, a little bit caught between two aims?
And I think the danger of that right now is that they're not any better off the rush. They're actually worse than they were last year. They're like second or third last in the NHL at generating rush chances. So if that's something that they wanted to improve on, they haven't, and now other aspects of their game have fallen, which is, we're probably making it seem like it's worse than what it is because the record is fine, and there's a lot of skill on the team, and ultimately, if the team plays up to their capabilities, this I think is different, Blake, than in years past where you just didn't have the guys, you didn't have the horses, so it couldn't get any better. Like this can look way better, it can feel way better. It's just they're just not quite connected in the aspects of the game the way they were last year. Like the breakouts don't lead into the rush, doesn't lead into the offensive zone time, and that doesn't limit time in the defensive zone for them. Like it's not flowing the right way right now, but because you have good enough players, it can, and I'm sure it will. But that's, if you were giving up one or the other, if you were trying to give up a little bit of something else to get the rush going, that hasn't exactly worked, which is, not ideal.
Yeah, so let me ask you our poll question. What do you think needs the quicker fix now? Team defense, Elias Pettersson, or something else?
Ooh. It is a good question. My first thought is Elias Pettersson. That's my first thought on it. Just because, you're paying him a lot of money, and that's always the first thing that's going to come up, is that when you eat up that much of the salary cap, you have to contribute that much of the production. Someone on Canucks Twitter, I can't remember which account it was, put up like a whole bunch of clips of Pettersson and Kuzmenko scoring goals that one year that Kuzmenko had all those goals. And I was like, that looks so different from the Elias Pettersson that we have seen this year. Like that guy looks so confident and like almost brazen to make these really dynamic moves and passes, and like, boy, is he really like drawing people into him, and then as he sucks them in, he's gone, and he's got that element of that quick step, and I'm like, I don't see that from him right now. And I think team defense is one of those things as a group. Coaching staff can address that, and that can be fixed. I think we saw that last year. The Pettersson thing is like, if you have to find something special, and even though he's done it in the past, you have to find something special, that's harder. Like that for me, like, that's a big time separator. And we're not seeing the separator from Elias Pettersson right now. And I think, watching those clips, I was like, what a great reminder of just how special a player he can be, but we're not seeing it this year.
End of the second period, their time is winding down. End of the second, I think it's end of the second. Face off with 4 seconds left. Puck goes to Elias Pettersson, and no one's around him. Just play breaks down for the Devils.
Yeah.
No one is around him. Right on his stick. And he triple clutches before eventually unloading the shot after everybody's sort of gotten into place, including the goaltender, and it's right into his crest, and it's the easiest save of his life.
Quick chest.
Like, what's going on there? Like, it's like he desperately wanted to pass off to somebody. He couldn't find anybody, and then resignedly said, I guess I'll shoot.
Yeah, I think he wanted to defer, clearly. And then the other thing, it's like, okay, I know the clock is going to run out, so you think you got to get the shot off ASAP, so maybe you don't take a step in. But he actually had some room to, like, move his feet. But I feel like in his stance, he was so wide. This is like really breaking it down, but it felt like he was so wide that he couldn't, bring it in to like get moving. And so he kind of got stuck with the shot. And okay, let's say that's the case. You couldn't pass, you couldn't move because you were stuck in the train tracks, but you took the shot. That shot was, I'm like, I've seen him shoot the puck way harder than that. I've seen him pick a corner better than that. I'm like, it's not going his way. It's just not. And I don't know, like there was over the summer talk about the tendonitis and the knee and all that kind of stuff and having to manage it. I'm sure that factors in. Like, we'll never know for sure because that kind of stuff just doesn't get talked about in the media availabilities, and that always, kind of gets, kept hush-hush. But if you're trying to learn how to do, if you're expected to do the things that you did without the aches and pains, and now you have the aches and pains, that has to factor in. It just does, and I'm sure that's not helping things for him right now.
It's tough to watch in a lot of ways. What about a trade for a defenseman? We've been bandying that about. Is that going to solve some ills here as well? Is the bottom half of that D, maybe even the bottom 4/6 of that D, is it just not good enough? Soucy and Myers have been a disaster. Last night, the third pair was two guys that if they were in the American League, you wouldn't blink an eye.
Yeah.
Is it just not good enough?
Well, and the pairs keep getting it's juggling the pairs right now too. Last night watching the game, I'm like, okay, there's Hughes and Brandstrom because it's an offensive zone faceoff, and then it's like, okay, there's Myers and Hughes, then there's Hronek and Hughes. I'm like, I don't know what the consistency is right now with that group, but that's troubling because you're not getting the continuity, and you're not getting the continuity because you're not getting, three pairs or at least two pairs that you feel like are playing. To expectations, not moving the puck as well as they can, not defending as well as they can, all that stuff. And so, when it comes to a trade for a defenseman, well, they just traded for a guy who moves the puck better on the third pair, Erik Brandstrom. But I'm watching him and I'm like, okay, wasn't overly dynamic, right? And then Toronto and San Jose just completed a trade where Timothy Liljegren, who makes $3 million, and he goes to San Jose, Matt Benning goes to Toronto, and it's like, there's available players out there for you. But if everyone played properly, like if Hronek and Hughes worked, if Soucy and Myers worked, if the third pair could give you 13 to 15 quality minutes, like on paper, it should work. It's just not working right now. So do you go out and make another trade? Like you're going to make two trades in the time that, you could have told the guys just play better. Like, we just need you guys to actually play up to your capability. Like, are you going to try and bail them out with two trades in before you hold them accountable to it?
Well, especially, Frank, Ole Mata goes for a third-round pick. Liljegren goes for a third and a sixth. And as we've talked about, those are playable NHL defensemen. But is that does that get you any further ahead in the playoffs? Like, is that what you need in terms of an impact defenseman? Let me ask you this. Your captain prefers playing with Filip Hronek and wanted Norris playing beside Filip Hronek. But would some of your troubles go away if Filip Hronek anchored his own pair and you had a little bit more depth in terms of usage of your defense pairs? Because right now when Hughes isn't on the ice, they're getting caved.
They are
5-on-5.
But the thing I would say to that is you can have Hronek on his own pair anchoring it, but he can't have a boat anchor with him. He just the way, if you're looking for balance right now, okay, that's fine. Hronek can go on another pair, but he's playing with a guy who's not playing great. That means Hughes is playing it with a guy who's making mistakes and not playing great. So you're almost like, don't you feel like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't right now? Because Hronek can play well on a different pair. But that means Soucy still has to play well. Like you can't just have, one defenseman on two pairs who can give you something, and the other two guys are just trying to keep up. And I think that's why, in a game like last night where you're chasing the game, you see all these different mixes and matches of D pairings because you're almost trying to play in the moment if you're coaching that and be like, okay, this situation will call for this or this situation will call for that. It's not a great way to do things, but to answer your question, I think if everything was going according to plan, Hughes and Hronek would stay together. Myers and Soucy would be dependable as a second pair, and you'd have a third pair that can get by to a certain degree. But I just think right now, if you have two guys on the second pair that are fighting it, you have to separate them, and I don't think it's enough right now to make up for it.
Boy, Zadorov would look pretty good on this team right now.
He would.
Huh?
It's hard to play that game because if he's on the team, somebody else isn't. But yeah, he would.
If he's on the team instead of Forbert and Dehern,
I know what you're saying. Zadorov is making a lot of money for a long time, and I've watched Boston play, and they're struggling right now. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some of the stuff he's doing with the puck, and I'm like, he could be playing for the Canucks right now with some of the mistakes and giveaways and some of the decisions.
He's an imperfect player, yeah.
He's not. You have to take the good with the bad with him, right? And I still think there's still those big mistakes that come with him. I think for a guy like that, you see the benefit come playoff time when it gets a little meaner and nastier and the ice kind of shrinks up. And, he being a big guy, he's part of that shrinking.
Last, of course, Seinfeld taught us about shrinkage.
The shrinkage, yeah.
Are
women aware of shrinkage?
We don't.
They are after the Seinfeld episode, at least of a certain vintage.
Yes.
That was a pretty well distributed show back in the day. Last question. Can they play Silovs again? Are you now lanking in on a prorated 60-plus start schedule? Would you send Silovs down to the minors to play a lot and see if he can find his game? What would you do with the RD party?
I think with goalies, going down to the minors doesn't guarantee confidence because, you go down to the minors and the game is a little bit different. There's more missed assignments. There's more of a kind of, mixed bag of what could happen. The game is probably more predictable for him at the NHL level, although he's facing the better shooters. And so I'm not always with the goaltenders. I'm not always of the mindset, send them to the minors. Whereas if it's a player who's not playing, like if he's playing 10 minutes a night, defenseman, you could go send him to the minors, play him 20, 22 minutes, and he'll feel like he's getting his reps, he's getting his puck touches. I don't think it's the same for goalies, but thank God they went out and traded for Lankinen because he's played stellar. And Silovs, this was the danger of coming back to him this year when it's not fresh, it's not new, you're not naive to the moment. Now you have some responsibility on your shoulders right away, and he hasn't passed the test. But, I think you do still have to put him in the net at some point. You're probably going to play Lankinen more. But I think it's one of these things for me with the goalie where he might have to just play through it at the NHL level. And really what it starts, like he needs one good game where nothing leaky goes in. It feels like
you have two cellar dwellers coming up. You've got San Jose on the weekend, Anaheim early next week. Do you give Silovs Anaheim maybe the second of those two games just to try to get him? It's not back to back. Nope, you got time off.
Back. See, like the back to back is automatic. He's going in.
Right. But they haven't had a lot of those, so there's been no. Yeah. I mean, Lankinen can easily cruise over the next few games, if they wanted to.
I just think the team is probably in a little bit of a point where you want to start accumulating points and you want to, dial in your game, and you have a better chance of doing that with Lankinen right now. So I think those are two important ones to just keep Lankinen in the net, and then when a back-to-back comes up, that's when Silovs is going to have to be ready, and hopefully that one goes well. And it's not an easy thing for a goalie, right? Because you're going in a back-to-back with probably there's some travel and team's tired, but that's the nature of the second goalie in the NHL, and every second goalie in the NHL has to deal with that, and that's where he is right now.
Mark my words, Silovs versus the Oilers in a Redux matchup next Saturday. It's a McDavid-less Oilers. McDavid-less Oilers.
Back-to-back?
No, there's no back-to-backs. There's none for another month,
No,
Frankie.
there is.
Oh, so he's got
middle of November.
Middle
of November. They've got Chicago, Nashville, back-to-back on a weekend, both games at home. Prediction, Lankinen plays the next 6 games.
Woo!
I think the
and
Nashville
Silovs
one,
may not play at all because Demko might be ready to come back that weekend.
The Nashville one would be interesting because it would be familiar to him. Like you see the Nashville jersey, you're like, I got some good mojo here against this team. Like that's and if that doesn't do it, then you just got to keep trying to find it.
Wait till Demko.
Yep.
Yeah.
Your Prince. Thanks for this, Frank. We'll catch up next week.
All right, boys. Thank you.
It's happy hour on Sekeres and Price. Today's beer of the day from Yellow Dog, the High Five Hazy IPA.
Here's some Price from the historic Wall Center in this next segment, powered by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're too busy for this ad. You're thinking about how to get more orders flowing, new locations opening. You need to get more customers, have them come back for more. So really, you're already thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. So when you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger. Think Square. Go to square.ca and see why Square is big in restaurants. Rob Williams is big on social. At Rob the Hockey Guy, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical, who says he heard a do something in the crowd last night, Rob?
That's copyright
Loud
infringement,
as can
first
be.
of all.
I know.
hope
I know. Yeah.
I hope you handed out cease and desist letters.
We were sitting in the press box, and you could hear it clear as day. It was not J-Pat. I can confirm it wasn't not J-Pat yelling. It was someone in the crowd. You could just hear it probably from someone in the upper bowl, and you just hear someone just go, "Do something!" And Connor Garland did something. I don't know if anybody else on the Canucks did last night. Yeah, what a dreadful performance that was.
Yeah, that was, and just the vibes at Rogers Arena were scary throwback vibes, Rob. Like we haven't heard people like that in a while.
Yeah, they got booed off the ice. As the seconds ticked down, Archer Silovs got I heard a bit of a sarcastic cheer for him at one point after he made a save.
Petey got a smattering of boos in the first period when he missed that Garland pass.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're a long ways off from the Benning days and some of those dark days. I think still, but yeah, it was a little bit of a throwback last night, and yeah, I mean, like I was amazed when I looked up the stat. Like, that's their worst shutout loss on home ice, since 2006. That's Luongo's first season. Young Rob was an intern with the team. I remember the game well. I was at the game in the press box. I was excited to be there. And
Rob the hockey boy.
6-0. That's right. And but like, think about all the crap we've been through since then, like the Willie Desjardins years, the Boudreau experience, those bad teams in the Benning era never had a 6-0 or worse shutout loss on home ice.
Let me ask our poll question, and gotta say, the early voting here, it is a dead heat between Pettersson and team defense. What needs the quicker fix here by your eye, Rob?
Well, I mean, as a whole, team defense, I think is the, if you're looking for them to improve quickly, team defense, like that was their calling card last season. They were able to win. They were able to get to the second round without Pettersson being a big factor. So they can do it without Pettersson if they have team defense. I think that affects so much of their game. But big picture, like how much longer can Pettersson go playing like this? Like, he's just not noticeable out there. Like, I saw it somewhere on social. The clip came up of his first goal in the NHL, and you look at it and you're like, he's flying through the neutral zone, and the shot just flies off his stick. Like, where is that? Like, and even just before he takes that shot in his first NHL goal, the quick hands, right? Like that kind of freezes the goalie. Just a quick stick handle as he's coming in, and boom. And we saw that with regularity from him. And I just don't know where that guy's gone. I know there's the tendonitis and everything, but like, he doesn't have tendonitis in his hands. I think a lot of people thought it was between the ears last season. Maybe confidence issues, but like, is it confidence carrying over from the summer? Like, I just don't know where it's gone. Like,
I hope this doesn't sound too damning, guys. It looks like he's a left-handed player that's stick handling with a right-handed stick. Like the sort of disjointedness, when you try to play around with a stick that's in the opposite hand, and you that's honestly what he looks like. It's the best way I can describe it, because you're just a little more clumsy with it, and you're like, he looks like that to me. Honestly, it's that disturbing to me to watch him stick handle right now.
Like, obviously something's bothering him. He's not himself. I don't believe that you can just lose it overnight, right? Like, for him to just have lost it all, I just don't think that's like I don't think people should be worried that it's gone forever, but like, man, like it's been gone for a long time now. Like this is quite a carryover from last season. I was expecting much more, like not this. I was not expecting him to basically be the same guy that we saw in the playoffs, right? Like this is where you're kind of like, you're looking for positives and you're like, okay, well, that was good back check and that was good defensive play, or he threw a hit. Like he doesn't get paid just for that. Like that's Teddy Bluger stuff, right? Like you can get that guy for cheap. You need the guy that is so dangerous offensively and brings that magic to the ice every day.
Rob, we all know they need a defenseman, maybe two. We've all seen the struggles from the bottom four, particularly last night. Carson Soucy is a big red flag right now, not to mention what little we've seen from Desharnais, and Jolson wasn't much better last night either. On a scale of 1 to 10, an urgency scale of 1 to 10, where 0 is I refuse to lift a finger, and 10 is I will rush to the phone to say yes on an overpay deal. Where are you in terms of their urgency to add a defenseman here? Because we've seen a couple traded this week.
Yeah, I mean, I think you still need to be careful. You don't want to be making any rash decisions here. And their record's still fine, right? Like they're not 6 games below 500, so I don't think you're at a 10 or anything like that yet. But it's got to be a top priority for a trade right now, right? Find a top 4 defenseman. The trouble is, do you know how, like, every team wants a top 4 defenseman, so it's difficult to find. They did find it with Zadorov last season. Like that, they didn't have to spend too much money to get him in the door. So if you can find a move like that where you get an undervalued player, I think you definitely look to make that move. I think the thing that I think the issue right now is they're so reliant on Soucy and Myers, where last season they had other guys that they could shift in. If one guy was going, you could play him a little bit more. If a guy was struggling, you could play him a little bit less. The guy everyone wanted to run out of town that I always defended, Ian Cole, is the guy they missed this season. To have somebody else that they could put into a position. Maybe Soucy's struggling. Maybe he's not working well with Myers. You can bump up Cole. You can bump down Soucy. They had that last season. They don't have that this season. I think that is definitely something that they miss. Because what do you do? I guess Brandstrom, is going to get some more looks. I've liked the look of him so far. So maybe there's something there. But having that big mean defense, like Brandstrom's not that, right? So, yeah, I think that they definitely need to be working the phones. I'm sure they are, and looking for an upgrade in that position, because right now it's just not good enough. I think it's going to be a real struggle until they fix that.
I liked Ian Cole's utility, but
Cole was very good in the first part of last year. It should be noted, and Rob's right about that.
But given his age, I was okay saying,
okay,
you want that guy back. You want to find the next Ian Cole, but I was okay with them gambling that they could find the next Ian Cole, and yet they didn't, of course. So,
and that's fair.
Who's the next Ian Cole?
Do we want to get to the bigger stories here, or at least
his 4chan QAnon Mark Messier story?
Right, Rob.
You're trolling the conspiracy theory boards again.
I don't even want to ask how you came across this, Rob, but you came across something that would be mind blowing if it's true.
There's no chance.
Pray tell.
Look, you got to listen to the people. You got to get out there and hear what the fans have to say. This was a trending topic on the Canucks Reddit board. Sounds unbelievable, but like, why would you make this up? Basically, someone had been on one of those Roger tours. They said that they had been on this tour, and I guess their tour guide was saying a bunch of things that were just completely not true, like just some like missing, like incorrect facts about just things here and there. But the big one was that Mark Messier is going into the Ring of Honor like this season, and this person said they reconfirmed, like, are you joking? No. Apparently the person was dead serious. I did hear from other people in my mentions after I shared this on social media that apparently other people heard this, that they were being told Mark Messier is going into the Ring of Honor this season. I'm wondering if this was something. I'm wondering if this was some. I don't want to slag Canucks Army here, but I wonder if this was some Canucks Army fake news that maybe perhaps caught wind with people, because now they did an April Fool's joke that Mark Messier was going into the Ring of Honor. I wonder if someone didn't get the joke. So that's one theory I have, because how could you believe that? So I wonder if someone read the headline, didn't read the April Fool's joke part. I don't know.
Gotcha. Yeah,
but that's one theory I have.
Well, and it's a good sign that the tour guide was getting a lot of other things wrong during the tour, and
let's hope that tour guide doesn't read the
I'm
Onion.
amazed that they're not hiring tour guides that have stuff down pat.
Shocking.
Just usually such a reliable, dependable, particularly on communication.
Yeah.
You ran a poll. Best chocolate bar, and very Canadian to say chocolate bar, right? They say candy bar, we say chocolate bar. Yeah. Smarties, Coffee Crisp, Kit Kat, Arrow. Coffee Crisp and Kit Kat are running neck and neck here. Those are the two wafer bars of this lot.
Crispy. Yeah.
I those are my preferences. And around this time of year, try not to eat a lot of chocolate, but around this time of year, we usually have one of those mixed boxes of, and so she's more than happy to let me have the Coffee Crisp and the Kit Kat, saying that, those are just no fun because they're wafer bars. They're too adult.
That is the fun.
If you're going to go chocolate, go full on out with a Smartie or...
Kids like Aero bars. No adults like Aero bars.
Yeah. Rob, Penny, for your thoughts here.
Yeah, guys, this poll question was inspired by the second intermission press box snack time. So
right.
There's usually a little second intermission is snack time. So usually everyone's kind of interested to see what's going to be there. So, day before Halloween, they had some Halloween candy out. So posted a photo and sort of started to get some reaction on Twitter. Loyal Sekerson Price listener, Basketball Phil, he's going with Smarties, which
candy.
I mean, if you're over the age of 12, that's incorrect, right?
Like first of all, if you're going with those at all, you're going Reese's Pieces. You're not going Smarties.
Exactly. I mean, no, but like candy coating. What adult eats candy coating?
Yeah, I'd even go M&M's over Smarties.
Yeah,
candy coated.
Coffee Crisp and Kit Kat are the clear 1 and 2, and I think Coffee Crisp is my go-to out of those four.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I like
my faith in humanity is restored.
Yeah, good. All the big stories.
Mm-hmm.
Messier go to the Ring of Honor, and Coffee Crisp, king of all candy, with Rob Williams Thursdays here on Sekerson Price. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, guys.
It's happy hour on Sekerson Price. Today's beer of the day from Yellow Dog, the High Five Hazy IPA.
Sekerson Price from the historic Wall Center. You can text us 778-402-9680. Email live at sekersonprice.com. All of it to the Great Clips inbox. Great Clips.
It's going to be great.
This segment is brought to you by our friends at Ben Moss Jewelers, where they have been operating in this country for more than 100 years, proudly so. 5 locations in British Columbia, including Willowbrook and Langley. Coquitlam Center, committed to customer satisfaction. Check out their large selection of Canadian mined diamonds, lab-grown diamonds. They got a helpful staff there. They're shepherd you through the process. And diamonds available with payment plans to suit your needs. For more information, check out benmoss.com. Ben Moss, shine bright. Well, a World Series where if you're a Dodger fan, Game 1 and Game 5, you will remember those two for the rest of your life. The Freeman walk-off home grand slam to win Game 1 in an extraordinary baseball game. And then I'm not sure I'd call yesterday's game extraordinary, but certainly the happenings were extraordinary. For the Yankees to blow a 5-0 lead in that fifth inning with a calamity of mistakes, Judge dropping the fly ball, Cole not covering first base. Frankly, I thought Judge should have had the ball that was over his head. He got a late break on that. Volpe throwing the third base when maybe you just get the out at second and keep the double play in order. So much of what the Yankees did this year was overcoming a lack of fundamentals in baseball IQ by hitting the long ball. And I do wonder, will it sort of be a bit of a turning point? Will teams will look and go, it's not enough just to hit the ball over the fence. You actually have to be grounded. I texted our buddy Terry McKegg, who founded the UBC baseball program yesterday, going, every baseball coach everywhere deserves a raise after tonight because you watched the American League champions get to this stage, the championship level, the highest, biggest stage in the sport, without actually playing the game the way it's supposed to be played in so many different areas. I mean, even throwing over to first base too many times, that's a balk. Chisholm tagging up to try and take second, which could have negated a go-ahead run. Like, it was one big baseball mistake after another from the Pinstripers, and they were deserving losers.
Well, and yet, of course, the Dodgers had impactful home runs as well, so it's not like they can't hit home runs. They just didn't play exclusively home run.
No.
They just deserve to be
the
champs.
They won the strategy. Like Dave Roberts, hats off. He's got 2 World Series now. He's got 8 division pennants. He's going to the Hall of Fame as a manager. Did you see the Nike ad that ran immediately after the game?
I saw something about a Nike ad.
Well, really creative from Nike here. It was an ad set to Randy Newman's I Love LA.
And rolling credits?
And it was like rolling credits, as you would see at the end of a movie, but, with the names of all the Dodgers players and managers and coaches and all of that. So, well done. I got to say, I was pulling for the Yankees. I was hoping to see some Friday, Saturday baseball here, go back to L.A.
You were pulling for the Yankees just to extend the series.
Yeah,
you weren't actually cheering on the Yankees.
No.
Who does that?
No, couldn't do that.
They don't get transient fans.
No.
I'm not a Dodgers fan, but I wanted the Dodgers to win.
No. Yeah. No, you can't root for the Yankees.
No.
It's like rooting for big oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Whitecaps, of course, they got the huge one Sunday here at BC Place against LAFC. Must win to keep their season alive. Harkening back to last year's match here against LAFC with all the terrible officiating, so they got a chance for revenge here, Blake.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? What's your gut telling you at this stage of the proceedings?
All of what you just talked about leads you to believe this is the same movie playing over again. And, hey, we in Vancouver have seen repetitive movies, Canucks versus Blackhawks, for instance. And eventually, the plot changes.
Lions versus Bombers.
Yes. Eventually, the plots change. The question is this the moment where the plot changes? So yesterday, it was just the subs that practiced fully. Starters got an extra day of rest from full training, at the very least. I expect everybody will be on the pitch today. And I say this objectively. This is not a, hey, good news, so I'll avoid all of you that say, stop jinxing us. Everybody's healthy. If you don't win this game, Matt, I don't know how you can say we were robbed of an MLS Cup, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're fully fit. You've played fully fit now for for 2 games in a row. 2 games. This is your 3rd game. You got 1 huge win and a medium-sized loss. I think if you're a good team, you win this game. I think you do. You at least force game 3 between these two sides, because if you get swept, I just don't think you were good enough then, because you've had 2 kicks at the can with your full lineup. So I have big hopes. Apparently, Armstrong and Gauld are commiserating a ton. Like the Scots want to bring this one across the line. So I have some moderate hopes there, and of course, the fans could maybe play a role here as well.
For sure.
This is going to be a pretty good vibe at BC Place. Go be a part of it. Tickets are on sale right now for the match. You can click on the link in our episode description, or you can go to ticketmaster.ca/Whitecaps 5:45. Really palatable start time here. Everybody can go to the match and get home in time for bed. So take the whole family. I think it's going to be a really, really raucous good time at BC Place.
And we were. Do you have your jersey?
Not handy. It's below the desk here.
Look at these beautiful jerseys that the Whitecaps delivered today, huh?
50th anniversary kits.
Goal. I love the goals.
Yes.
So thank you to Nathan.
I would suspect
And
they're wearing
everybody
those.
over at the Whitecaps. Lions, where Sean White makes it through the voting to be the West Division nominee for the Special Teams Player of the Year. This is the second year in a row that Whitey has received that honor. Pride of White Rock. He's in tough against this year. Janarian Grant of the Argos had 4 return touchdowns. His punt and kickoff return averages were
80s
superior. So it may not go any further than that. Justin McInnes didn't make it through the MOP voting in the West. Brady Oliveira, the Winnipeg running back that led the league in rushing, did so. And Blake, as you may remember, they celebrated the 30th anniversary of the BC Lions 1994 Grey Cup winning team a few weeks back at BC Place, and they're starting to bring that narrative to the fore in the Lions' den. That team finished 11-6-1, but in third place in the CFL West. Calgary and Edmonton had extraordinary seasons above them, and this was in the day of U.S. expansion, so you had a broader collection of teams in the CFL at the time. That Lions team lost 3 of their final 4 games, kind of limped into the playoffs. They went to Edmonton and won. They went to Calgary and won, and what remains one of, if not the most famous Lions win of them all, in snowy Calgary against Wally. McManus to Flutie, touchdown Lions. BC's going to the Grey Cup. Chris Cuthbert could barely believe his eyes. And then, of course, they upset the Baltimore Stallions here at BC Place with a home Grey Cup victory thanks to the foot of Louis Pasaglia. Just saying. There are some similarities here. 30 years on, right? 2 quarterbacks. That team had Austin and Danny Mack, right? Wasn't expected to win in 2 cold and hostile environments. This is a playoff meeting with the Riders. 11 previous playoff meetings between BC and Saskatchewan. The last was the 2013 West Semi. It was a really good game. Saskatchewan won at 29-25. They played in 3 West Finals from 04 to 07. Their first playoff meeting back in 1963, where Ron Lancaster hit Hugh Campbell with the touchdown pass. And, of course, Hugh Campbell's son now coaches the Lions, and Ron Lancaster's grandson, Mark Mueller, is the offensive coordinator for Saskatchewan. So a lot of history here, and we'll see if the Lions can pull it off against the Riders and make their way to Winnipeg for a 3rd successive season.
Now, the other more notable 2 quarterback season was probably Dickinson and Printers.
Right.
That one wasn't covered in quite as much glory.
No, it wasn't.
So, which parallel do you want to make?
I can still remember it vividly. Grey Cup in Ottawa that week, and Mike Petrie of the Calgary Herald, who had a very good relationship with Wally, walked into the Football Reporters of Canada suite on Saturday night and said, "Dave Dickinson is starting tomorrow." And we all went, "What? Not Casey? Not the MOP?" No, not the MOP. All right. One other CFL note to pass along here. The Edmonton Elks have hired former offensive lineman Chris Morris as their new president and CEO. He'd been the head coach of the University of Alberta. Farhal Altry reporting that G. Roy Simon will not be given the general manager's job there. He is, of course, serving as the interim general manager, has since Chris Jones was let go earlier in the year. Old friend Jarris Jackson, the interim head coach. G-Roy will be given an interview there. Farhan also expects that Lions executive Ryan Rigmaiden, who's their chief talent scout in the U.S., will get interviewed by the Elks. Wish Ryan well, wish G-Roy well, Jarris as well. But, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Lions lose Sunday. Do you bring G-Roy home? Because I'm not sure Campbell survives.
No.
Lose Saturday. Game Saturday.
Well, the other thing that came to my mind was...
So do you elevate Neil and just make Neil the general manager and he picks a head coach? Do you bring G-Roy home?
But is Neil allowed to apply for the Elks job? Is a solo GM job above a co-GM?
Neil in the past hasn't wanted to leave.
No, he's been here for a long time.
He's been here for 30 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is all sorts of potential moving pieces.
Yeah.
Calgary's bringing Dave Dickinson back as head coach and GM. I was a little surprised there. I wondered if that role was going to be split up. Calgary's already made several changes to their staff. We'll see if we hear anything further from either the Red Blacks or the Argos if they were to lose on Saturday in the East semi, or even if Hamilton makes a move here. So the CFL hot stove and at the executive coaching level could be pretty
Does Neil avoid heat because everybody was in pretty unanimous agreement that it looked good on paper?
Yeah, I mean,
if
you ask me, the issue has been more the playing than the talent.
We looked at this roster and thought, wow, they've really bolstered to try and win the Grey Cup on home soil here.
You may say they're too old in certain places, that they're not spectacular enough at certain places, or they don't have enough quality in certain spots. Offensive line is still a problem, has been for some time. But no, I perceive the problem more at a coaching and playing level than I do at a talent accumulation level.
We're so worried about losing, Hladek and Betts. In the end, they have both of them back for another year, and still no defensive all-stars.
Yeah, with Locumbo and with, McInnes was a great ad last year. Hollins was a nice find. He's a good player. Standback did what pretty much they hoped he would do.
TJ Lee didn't miss as much time as we thought he might.
Christian Covington was effective for them as a rotational defense line. So, and this is really the first time Amar Doman is going to put his stamp, right? He's been a patient owner here. He's sat there and watched them 2 years in a row not get through Winnipeg. Okay, fair enough. That's a really good Bombers team. Has a chance to do some things that we haven't seen in the CFL for a long time in terms of Grey Cup participation. But, I think if you lose this game Saturday, I think you're going into the offseason and expecting change with the Leos. Poll question results from Wednesday. Will Quinn Hughes always be the best Hughes? Yes or no? The people said
yes.
Indeed. Percentage?
Well, I only saw early looks. I'll admit I saw an early look. I think it probably held 85, I want to say.
85 exactly on the number, Blake, 2 days in a row. Petto, yes, and by a large margin. Quinn is a unicorn, adding new tools annually. His brothers are fantastic, but are not unique. Quinn's closest comparable is probably Scott Niedermayer, but even that isn't doing him justice. Canucks 2030, all of them can work on their skills. Jack could win a Hart. Luke could win a Norris. With Luke's size, he could do everything Quinn does and be physically dominant as well. So, yes, both could surpass Quinn, but the bar is extremely high. Errors and omissions. When we were discussing NHL franchise value, we mentioned that the Oilers had built a new rink and that had helped their value. One of our YouTube follower said, well, the Oilers don't own their rink, which is true, but the Oilers Sports Group does operate the facility, and typically that comes with pretty good revenue streams, and particularly in new buildings. But yes, no, they don't actually.
Not an asset, but it's it's not a
contract
hard
to
asset.
operate it is certainly an asset.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. You get sweetheart deals and stuff too. So
Anything to self-report?
No. Doesn't either.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you connecting and spending some time. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. Live on many of those platforms. Noon, weekdays, Pacific time. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local. Hey, everybody. If you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres and Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.